Christy. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day one of my 2021 holiday card series. Today I'm going to be making a card using Lawn Fawn's Joy to All, Holiday Helpers, and Christmas Dreams. I had so many images for today's card that I stamped them on two separate panels of Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock with Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink, and I'm going to be coloring with my Copic markers. Starting with my little kids, and for their skin I'm going to use E000, E00, and E11. So I added some E11 up under the hairline and at the bottom of the hands, and then I'm blending that out with the E00, and then I'll use that E000 at the bottom of the face and the top of the hands. And then I also use that to add a little bit of color to the marshmallows and whipped cream. And then I used E00 and E000 for the dog bone. Then I'm going to go in with R11 and R20 to give my kiddos some rosy cheeks. I just did a little R20 first and then traced around the edge with the R11. Then I'm moving on to the hair, and I'm using E23, E25, and E27. I'm starting with that E23, my lightest shade, and laying in where I eventually want my darkest shadows to be. I am going to do more simple coloring for their hair since that's the style in which it's drawn. So then I'm going to darken that up with the E25, just flicking it from the ends of the ponytails and from the sides of the bangs toward the center. And then I went in with my darkest shade, that E27, to really darken things up and add a bit of contrast. Then I'll go back to my mid-tone, that E25, and begin to blend that out. And make sure to catch the edge of that E27 since it is such a dark color. And then I'll finally come in with that E23 and finish her off. So I'm coloring her to look like me, so I went with this dark reddish brown hair because that's similar to mine. And then the little guy is going to be my husband. His hair is a little bit lighter than mine, so I took out the E27 and added in E21. So once again, I'm going to start with that lightest shade, the E21, and do the same thing. I'm just kind of flicking from the ends of the bangs toward the crown of the head. So then I'm going to go to my mid-tone, the E23, and add a bit of depth with that, and then darken that up a little bit more with that E25. Then I went back to the E23 and started blending that out and finished with the E21. Was leaking a little bit, so I just took off the other end of the marker to equalize the pressure in the barrel a bit, and then I went back with that E23 and E21 to just smooth everything out. Then I'm going to add in G000 to add the tiniest bit of shading to their PJs. I want to add some details to that later on, but I just wanted something different than like a gray for the shadows, so I thought these pale greens would work. I did also add in the G00 because the G000 is super light, you could barely see it. So I used that to blend into the white, and then I'm also going to use that G000 to do the lace collar and the socks. And then I'm going to move on to my red combo, or my first red combo. I'm using R35, R37, and R39. I'm taking the mid-tone, which is the R37, and just doing some dot detail on her little nightgown. It's going to be holly and leaves, so I'm doing the berries right now, doing little dots in little threes, and then sometimes, like if it's on the edge of the fabric where it might be folded under an arm or something, then I might just do one or two. I'm going to do the same on his PJs because of course they needed to have matching PJs. So I'm just dotting those berries on his as well. And then I'm going to pull in G46 for the first section of leaves. So I'll just do like quick little flick motions, kind of almost like an eye shape, you know, like an almond, and just kind of doing those right up next to the berries. Just doing one of each of those next to the berries because I am going to add in a darker shade of leaves as well. So I'm going to do that on both of them. And then for the darker green, I'm going to use G28 and just do the same type of motion so that there's 2 little leaves next to each 3 berry cluster. So I will do a few extra scattered ones here and there that again might be on the outer edge of the fabric. I just made sure not to make it too crowded because I wanted them to be clearly visible. I didn't want it to get kind of lost in a jumble of print. So finished up on him as well, and then just went back to the G46 and added in 1 extra leaf where I felt I needed one. And then I'm going to move on with that red combo. I'm going to do the big bow that's at the top of the page, starting with that R39 and using that as my darkest. And then I'm going to blend that out with the R37. And then I'll finish with the R35. So I think this combo is really great for Christmas. It's just a slightly more cranberry red than my typical bright red combo, but I was kind of going for that deeper red in this scene anyway, so I thought that worked out really well. I decided to do all the ribbons on the gifts with this red combo. At first I was going to do them all a little bit different, but since there was going to be so much going on in this scene and I already had the pattern on the pajamas, I thought it would be better to simplify the coloring on the rest of the images. Not that I'm going to lose any of the depth, I'm still going to make sure that I have that, but the color palette I wanted to keep a little bit more simple so that you really see the images and also the print on those kids' pajamas, because those are going to be kind of front and center. So everything else I just wanted to be a bit more simple in color palette. So I did all the ribbons with this combo, including the dog bow and also the spool of ribbon. So my idea for this scene here was every single year, one of the things I look most forward to is wrapping gifts. I love wrapping gifts. I love to make bows. I make really fancy ones with, wired ribbon and everything, and always try to match my ribbons with my gift wrap and everything. I go crazy over gift wrap. When I start to see it come out in like Target, I get so excited. I just love Christmas gift wrap. So I wanted to create this little scene where I have finished wrapping all of the gifts, and my husband has brought me some cocoa to kind of celebrate being done with it, because he doesn't help. He doesn't really enjoy wrapping gifts at all, so that's my territory, but he would definitely bring me some cocoa afterwards to congratulate me on a job well done. So I've moved on to my green combo. I went back to the G46 and G28, but I added in G43, and I did the handle of the scissors and of course the Scotch tape. And then I decided to do one of the stockings, the one with the little heart, with that green combo as well, just to have it in another place on the card. Then for the gift wrap, I wanted it to be kind of silver, so I went with C0, C1, and C3. I just thought that would be something a little bit different than just going traditional green and red. So I thought silver with a little bit of a detail to that, something more simple I'm going to add to that. But first I'm just going to do the background. So I started with C3 for the darkest and then blended up with the C1. and then use the C0 as the lightest. And I did go over that with a second layer because I just felt like there wasn't enough depth there, but I didn't want to go into like the C5. I didn't want it to get that dark. So I just did the second layer with the C3, well, with all of the shades, but you know, just added that depth again with that darkest shade. And I'm going to do all the gifts again to match as if I were using the same roll of wrapping paper for all the gifts, which of course I would never do because I love gift wrap so much and I love to have a variety of different ones. But like I said, in the sake of keeping this card a little bit more simple with the color palette so that the details really shine, I decided to just pretend I used the same roll, which my husband would be so proud of me if I did that. But then I used C1 to add a little bit of shading to the whites of the stocking. And then I'm of course going to do our dog Gemma as the little sleeping dog. So I just did a base layer with some shading with those shades. I'm going to move on to a second red combo. This one is going to be a lot more pink in tone, like undertone, and that is R22, R24, and R29. So like I said, I wanted to keep that color palette fairly simple, but I didn't want everything to be the exact same shade of red. So I just did the ribbons with that first combo, and then anything else that I want to be red, I'm going to use this combo for. So I did the other two stockings, plus the little heart on the third stocking, and one of the mugs. And then I'm also going to do the carpet that the kids are sitting on. So I'm using that R29 to add some depth to the outside edge. And then I'm going to blend toward the center with the R24. And then I'll use the R22 in the very center for the highlight. And you can see I did go back and color the other mug green with that same green combo that I used earlier. So now I'm going to start adding in Gemma's coloring. I've mentioned it before, but she's an Australian Shepherd. She's a Blue Merle Australian Shepherd. So she's got a lot of different color patterns on her. She's got some copper that goes around the eyes and on her hind legs and a little bit on her front legs. So E31, E33, and E35 are the shades I chose to do that with. So right now I'm just doing the patches around her eyes, and then I'll go back and add in a little bit more on her hind legs, and then just a little spot on her front legs. And then I'm also going to use those shades to do like the cardboard tube of the not pattern paper, gift wrap. And then for the rest of Gemma's shading, I'm going to use T1, T3, T5, and T7, starting with that darkest shade, the T7, and adding in her little black spots. She has some on her ears and then also down her back and toward her tail. And then I'm going to soften those up with the T5, just doing little stippling motions with the tip of my marker, just tap, tap, tapping until everything is nice and blended. Then I use the T3 and then finally the T1 just to kind of transition those areas into the white space. I forgot to do the ribbon packaging, but I ended up doing that with the copper combo. And then I did the second sheet off screen. I just used the same combos that I used on the first sheet. And then I trimmed all of these images out with their matching dies. For the background, I'm going to start with some pattern paper from the Let It Shine Snowflakes 6x6 pad. So I'm choosing this white with like a little silvery snowflake pattern on the back. And then I also took one of the Wood Grain Naturals cardstock and die cut those with the large stitch rectangle stackables. So I'm going to glue that to the front of my card base, and that is a piece of guava cardstock that I've scored and folded to a standard A2 size card with the top fold. And then I'm going to layer on that wood grain cardstock that's going to serve as my floor. And then I trimmed out just a little white strip, and that is going to be my baseboard. So I'm going to glue all of that down with my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. Just make sure that that is adhered down nicely. And then I'm going to begin to add my images. I'm going to start with this Christmas tree because it's the largest, and that is going to go on the right hand side right up toward that baseboard. And then opposite that on the left, I'm going to have the fireplace, and I'm putting those pretty far back, like I said, because I want to have plenty of room down in front for all the rest of my scene. So next I'm going to do the other carpet, and that's going to go in the center of the scene, and that is where my kids are going to sit. So I'll grab me and then add me on the left, and then my husband is going to go on the right. And I put us on the outer edge of that carpet because it's a little bit small for the scene, but that's the only one that I can think of that we have with Lawn Fawn. So I wanted to kind of make it look a little bit bigger by having the kids kind of hang off the edge a bit, so it's not completely covered up with the images. So I'm going to add the cocoa into each of our hands. And then from there, I can start to stage the rest of the scene around us. So I'm going to take this roll of wrapping paper and add that down toward the bottom left, of course, over on my side. And then I'll put our little sleeping Gemma over on the right, kind of balancing that out. I'm going to take the little wrapped dog bone and tuck that near her paws. And then I'll take the gifts. I'm going to add the large square one over on the left, right in front of the fireplace, and then the large round one over by the tree. And then I've got a small square one as well that I wanted to sit in front of that. So I just shifted the round one a little bit more toward the left while that glue was still wet. And then I can set the smaller one kind of in front of that. I tucked it a little bit behind Gemma's head just to kind of push it back further in the scene. And then I've got this bow that I'm going to add to the top of the fireplace just to add some decoration there. And of course the 3 stockings, since we have 3 boys. So I added one for each of them to the fireplace, and I put the green one in the center just to kind of, spread those colors around a bit more. So then I've got a few little accessory images that I'm just going to use to fill up the rest of the scene. I'm going to add the scissors near the wrapping paper, and then of course the ribbon kind of in front of that as well. And the tape I'm going to add in the space between my husband and the front of the card there to kind of just make sure that everything is kind of spaced equally. I have the scissors and the ribbon, then the tape, then the dog bone. So it's kind of very balanced. And then I have some Christmas ornaments and some candy canes that I'm going to use to deck the tree. So again, just spreading those around so that 2 of the same exact color aren't right next to each other, or also the same shape, just trying to, keep the variety there. So everything is spread around. And then I'm going to pop this into my MISTI so that I can stamp my sentiment. I'm going to do that with some lobster ink, and I noticed that the ink was kind of beading up on that sentiment, so it wouldn't have stamped very nice because it was a brand new image that I hadn't stamped before. So they sometimes have a little bit of residue from the manufacturer on there that you just need to clean off. So I just used my stamp chamois, inked that up again, and then I'm using my Twiddler's Nook Pressure Pal to make sure I get a good impression. For some reason, it just wasn't stamping down very nicely. I think I just wasn't using the right amount of pressure or something, so I did have to keep pressing on that a little bit more firmly with my fingers, and I re-inked the word joy, which wasn't quite dark enough compared to the others, but eventually I got it there. Then I opened up my cards so I could stamp on the inside, and I did the little dog from Joy to All, plus the little dog bowl with the gingerbread man, and the sentiment that said, "May all your Christmas wishes come true." To finish up this card, I'm going to take some white gel pen and add a plaid pattern to that silver gift wrap. It doesn't show up super well on screen because it's really light, but you can see it in person a lot better. So like I said, I just wanted to do a simple pattern so it didn't distract from the pajama pattern. So I just did like a wide plaid just by doing diagonal lines and then switching the direction of those lines. So I did all of the wrapping paper to match the 3 gifts plus the gift wrap roll. And then of course I wanted to add a bit of sparkle as well. So I grabbed my favorite Stardust Stickles and I added a bit to the whites on the tops of the stockings, and also to the marshmallows and whipped cream in the mug, and then to all of the ribbons, including the little dog bone and the ribbon that's on the roll I will get to. And then I added a few little accents to the Christmas ornaments as well. Oh, also the ribbon on the fireplace. So that is going to finish off day 1 of my 2021 holiday card series. I'll lift that up to the camera so you can see all of that sparkle and give you another peek at the inside. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one and that you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on so you won't miss any future videos. I'll be posting them on Mondays and Fridays, and probably some bonus videos in there as well. If you're interested in any of these products, you'll find them listed and linked down below. And if you'd like to keep watching, here is day 1 of the previous 2 years of holiday card series. So you can click on either one of those to check them out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.